Welcome back to the kitchen, everybody. This is your boy, the Mad Chef, and tonight we are launching a brand new segment on this channel called Game Day Grub. This is where once a month I show you guys how to elevate your game days, your tailgates, and get you ready for the big game. It doesn't matter if you're watching college football or if you're looking at the big leagues. It doesn't matter if your team wins or loses, as long as you land that touchdown or field goal every time you have your crew over to watch the game. Tonight, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the most incredible pulled pork nachos. We're making everything from scratch, with the exception of a couple ingredients. I've seen a lot of other barbecue channels do this. They spend all day making incredible barbecue and then just kind of toss it together with some really pre-made items. And guys, that's not what we're about here. There's only two things that we're bringing to this recipe that were store-bought. The first thing is the rub that we use on our pork, and the second thing are the tortilla chips. And we're going to talk about that later. Everything else is made from scratch. These are going to be the best pulled pork nachos you've ever had in your life. Can be done on any given weekday, obviously, because I'm still in my work clothes. I started this video this morning, and we're about to wrap it up now. So, first thing we need to discuss is the pork. So let's, take a trip back in time to earlier this morning when I made this pork.
It's time to rub my butt. So what we're going to do now is use this liquid hickory smoke as a binder. You can use mustard if you like. And then we're going to cover all the sides with this beautiful barbecue rub. And this is just my usual Weber KC barbecue rub. You can use whatever rub you like or even make your own. I know this sounds like common sense, guys, but please be sure to coat all the sides and the bottom thoroughly with both the liquid smoke and the seasoning, making sure you rub this thing all the way around and roll it on the board to collect all the seasonings to make sure nothing is bald. And once you have a fully dressed pork butt like this, we're going to pop it into the crock pot, put a lid on it, and let it cook over a low heat for 10 hours. I'm going to get changed and head to work. See you this evening.
Alright, so now that you know how I prepared the pork for this video, all we got to do at this point is to shred it apart and turn it into pulled pork. So all we're going to do now is turn our attention to the accoutrements and sides that we're going to be using to put this thing together. I'm going to be making some fresh pickled jalapenos. Now guys, if you have not seen how I do that, I'll leave a link in the description and a card floating around on how I make pickled jalapenos. Are they absolutely necessary? No, you can leave the step out if you want, but this is going to add some great acidity and some heat, and it's going to cut through a lot of that fatty richness that we have going on in the pork, and it's just going to add another level of flavor. I do recommend you try it this way. And then we're going to be making our homemade nacho cheese, but we're going to be making it a little bit differently. So I'll meet you guys at the stove when it's time to start our nacho cheese.
Alright, before we can even start working on these sauces, let's go ahead and put these beautiful tortilla chips in the oven on 350 degrees. I'm on my timer set for 15 minutes, but you can pull them out as soon as 6 minutes in. This is going to give us a sturdier chip with a heartier crunch, and not only that, it's going to keep it from sogging out under all the moisture from the pork and the sauces, which is why we didn't make our own tortilla chips from scratch. It wouldn't be barbecue without my signature sauce, so I've got about a cup of that with a half a cup of water, and we're going to get that warm and loose, and you'll see what I do with that later. So let's start our nacho cheese sauce by melting off 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, then adding in a quarter of a cup of all-purpose flour, cooking it out for roughly 45 seconds until it's nice and golden amber. And once we've done that, it's time to start slowly introducing our moisture. Now this sounds like a lot, but we're going to slowly introduce about 2 cups of milk. And while it might seem like a little too much milk for this roux, we need this to be able to pass through a squirt bottle top. It's going to be kind of like a loose nacho cheese / nacho crema situation. And once we've gotten enough of that liquid in to kind of make this into sort of a loose paste, we're going to go ahead and add in our nacho cheese seasoning, which includes 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper, half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and a quarter teaspoon of smoked paprika. And we're going to give that a nice aggressive whisk till everything is thoroughly combined. Don't worry about the color of the roux now. Once we add the rest of our liquid in, it's going to smooth out and become a lightish color. So we're going to slowly add in our milk in batches until we get a nice loose sort of cream going on. And after that, it's time to start adding in our cheese. And this is just an 8-ounce block of freshly shredded Colby Jack cheese. We're going to add that in batches and stir until it's dissolved. Now, there being so much liquid in the pot, it did lose some temp, so I bumped up the stove to medium-high. And this did take a little bit longer than usual to dissolve as it's a bit gloopy. But after a few minutes, we got the results we needed, and once everything is thoroughly melted, we're going to add the rest of our cheese. And you guys might be questioning my choice of Colby Jack. Yes, I thought I had cheddar in the fridge, but I obviously did not. But Colby Jack hits the same flavor profiles as cheddar, so it works and tastes good. That being said, we're a little bit light on cheese. We'll fix that in a minute because we need to tend to our barbecue sauce. Now that our barbecue sauce is nice and simmered, we're going to go through and blitz it with this immersion blender. Just like we're doing with the cheese, this needs to be able to pass through the top of a squirt bottle. As many of you may know, my signature barbecue sauce has pieces of garlic and jalapenos in it, so we're going to continue to blitz this until all the visible chunks are gone. And going back into sauce salvation mode, we're going to start by adding in some fresh shredded mozzarella cheese. Now this might seem crazy to you, but mozzarella has a neutral flavor, so it's going to take on the flavor of whatever you're putting it in. So it's going to work without changing the flavor of the sauce. That being said, I did end up using the entire 8-ounce block of mozzarella, which is going to reduce some of the sharpness and cheddar flavor of the Colby Jack. That being said, it ended up a little too thin still, so I had to pull this pot off the heat and add in a small cornstarch slurry consisting of 1 teaspoon of cornstarch and 1 tablespoon of water, and after mixing that in, it starts to thicken as you can see here. So after we got that all nice and combined, we're going to set it to the side so it can set and thicken while we start plating. And the first thing on is going to be a nice heavy bed of our beautifully toasted tortilla chips. We're going to need a good bit of these to support the weight of the toppings. And on top of that is some nice freshly shredded lettuce. I know this might seem a bit weird, but that's going to bring a lot of coolness and contrast and freshness to this very rich dish. And then a nice thick bed of our beautifully cooked smoked pulled pork. And we want to make sure we get full coverage on this guy. And also that lettuce is going to act as a safety net to catch all those juices and sauces, preventing that sog factor from happening. And then the fresh pickled jalapeno peppers. You don't want to go too crazy with these. I think I only put like 5 or 6 on them, but that acidity is going to be needed to cut through the rich fattiness of the meat and some of those sauces. So while we don't want to go too far on the spice factor here, that acid is going to be much needed to bring balance and brightness to the dish. And here's our beautifully pureed Kansas City style barbecue going on top. All the pepper chunks were eliminated. Those seeds still cause some problems, causing some hiccups in the plating here. And then comes on our beautiful nacho crema. And guys, I almost tossed this cheese sauce out because it didn't quite form the way I wanted it to. But after tasting it, it was just too good to toss out. And honestly, if it turned out any thicker, this would be way too dense and way too rich to even be palatable. So this turned out right.
Alright, pulled pork nachos. This video nearly killed me because of that cheese fail. I've never had a cheese sauce fail like that, but we fixed it. The idea was never for it to be like an ooey gooey stringy cheese sauce, but like a liquid nacho cheese. So it's kind of what we got here. It's still a little thin, but it tasted too good to toss out. So let's try it with everything together. That's so good. You've got the cold crisp lettuce. You get that beautifully cooked pork that's absolutely tender and juicy. Definitely use more of this barbecue sauce. No more of the cheese sauce here. Let's take another go at it. All the components are there, the sweet, the smoky, the savory. Guys, honestly, the real problem with the cheese sauce was just a little too much milk. It kind of overcompensated for the squeeze bottle. Well, we did have a good flavor coming from the sauce that we made. The cheese flavor is kind of dumbed down. The sharpness of the cheese flavor is kind of dumbed down by the mozzarella. but it still gets the job done. It adds a level of heat, adds a level of richness. I mean, it just tastes good. Everything plays together well on the plate, even as is. Until next time, this is your boy, the Mad Chef. I'll see you in the next video.